All right, we'll bring on our next guest. You might know him as Clyde Do Something. He's Clyde Nichols. Rose to prominence during the Freedom Convoy, as so many alternative media space conservative types did. He's still around, still working hard. Clyde, let's bring you in. Hi, Clyde.
Hey,
Thanks. Is this your first time, like, officially on like a Rebel News show?
I think so. I think this would be officially
Oh,
my first appearance on Rebel News. Thanks for
I,
having me.
I'm
Well,
so
welcome.
embarrassed. That's so long overdue. I think we talked to you during the convoy.
Oh, you and I
Um,
have met a few times,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
I've
yeah, of course.
been. Oh, maybe I had some interviews on Rebel. I know Andrea, or sorry, Drea.
Yeah.
She interviewed me before, and I was with. There was a whole thing with Alexa
Yeah,
when
yeah,
in
during the
just over
convoy.
the summer here. No, no,
Yeah,
no.
oh
Even
yeah.
before, just recently, we were at a national security
Yes,
conference in
yes, yes.
Toronto.
Yes. You guys were there with Josh from Elevate, actually, who was on a little earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
Jasmine Lane. Shout outs to everybody.
yeah, look at all the independent journalists out there. I want to talk to you about Battle River-Crowfoot. What are your predictions? I don't know if you looked at the results before you jumped on, but my question is, do you think Bonnie Critchley is going to make it to 10%, given all the advertorials she received from the Carney contaminated media?
Well, it might be a tight race as
Oh,
we were
it's tightening
expecting.
up.
Yeah. No, of course we all knew that this was going to go to Pierre Poilievre, and this is the reason why they chose that riding in particular. And it really is just an exercise in getting Pierre back. Really, that's all
Right.
that is. All the sh all they wanted to make it a showboaty sort of event, and they wanted to push out use this as an opportunity to slander Pierre, the conservatives as a whole, as much as they possibly can. But at the end of the day, this was Pierre's to win,
Yeah.
and he's coming back. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, and really that's what it is. Regardless of how the mainstream media tried to pump the tires of Bonnie Critchley in that riding, and the fact that Elections Canada didn't do anything to deal with the longest ballot committee. Like, can anybody tell me what those people do around here at Elections Canada? Because as best I could tell, they mismanage elections and let foreign interference, domestic interference from these longest ballot committee people come in, they lose ballots, they screw up ballots in Quebec so that the riding is flipped by one vote. I'm not sure what they do around here. And
Oh,
one of the first order of businesses, I think, for a conservative government, if and when that ever happens again, is they have to do something with Elections Canada, at
well,
least jump in.
well, yeah, because we revealed on one of our other live streams that Elections Canada just revealed a 7-year DEI strategic plan. So elections aren't even like in terms of racism and harassment and Islamophobia and all of the things that Elections Canada is concentrating on. Elections is literally like the seventh or eighth thing that they find important. Like there are many other DEI related initiatives that Elections Canada is more interested in pursuing than fair and transparent elections. Like that is the craziest thing. And just like so many other public institutions, like obviously the whole thing has to get burnt to the ground and built again because what they're doing right now isn't working.
Well, do you really expect the government to do anything well? I
No,
mean,
no.
you have one job, and that's really what it comes down to.
Yes.
No matter where Elections Canada is working, no matter which department in the government, and
Yeah, it
just
doesn't
every
matter.
bureaucracy, they're just falling apart at the seams, hiring incompetent people. It's you see more nepotism in government than you ever see
Yes.
any sort of meritocracy. This is what we
Mhm.
get, and we're you're seeing exactly the products of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it looks
It's
like under Mark Carney that that's just accelerating. I'm happy you used the word nepotism or another one cronyism or we're entering a stage of being a kleptocracy in Canada where our natural resources are just pillaged by the elite classes for the benefit of the friends of the elite
Do you know what?
classes.
I wish, but they won't even let us pillage the natural resources. They're like, leave them in the ground. We're not even treated as well as a colony because
Just
a colony They want to let us extract the resources. They want the resources, and they also want the wealth. They just want our wealth without letting us do the thing that creates the wealth, and that's extract the resources. So we're
Well,
worse than that. I don't know what.
the federal government is formulating a plan, though, Sheila, to eviscerate all of the regulations and red tape that go along with, nation building projects. And so that will be the extraction of natural resources from Western Canada. You mark my words. What
I
has
don't believe
value?
so. I
I
believe
d-
that's going to be wind turbines
I
and solar
or
panels. I don't
solar
believe that's going to be.
I honestly think
Sorry,
that,
Clyde, go ahead.
I think Carney and the Liberal government will at some point have to allow for some sort of extraction of energy. The problem that I have with it is how they're going to go about it. We see with Bill C5 and that being passed, it's more about bringing together a central authority, and that's no good for anybody. It's
Right.
not. We won't be, pulling these resources out of the ground on our own terms. Alberta won't be on their terms. British Columbia won't on their terms. If it happens in Quebec, it won't be on their terms. Nobody's going to like this deal except central planners. And this is really the
so
wrong direction for Canada.
so
Well,
interesting you should say that. Yeah, go on, Sheila.
well, I was just going to point out that I don't think it matters whether or not C5 has been passed, um, because we used to be able to build a lot of things under the old regulations, and I'm not talking about the No More Pipelines regulations that shoehorned DEI, gender nonsense, the GBA plus, the gender-based analysis plus, ask the local feminist if the pipeline hurt her feelings before you have permission to build it regulation. Before that, we had the National Energy Board, the NEB or the NERB, and it was a plainly technical review. And we used to build things under that. We used to build refineries. We used to build pipelines. And a couple of pipelines were approved under it, including Trans Mountain, the expansion. Also, Northern Gateway Pipeline was approved under the NEB. And then the courts got involved. So it doesn't even matter what is permitted under the legislation, whether it's this liberal, weird C5, which I actually don't like C5. It's very centralized and it doesn't have enough technical focus in it. Because if you're worried about a pipeline leaking, I feel like you should have a technical focus. But they don't have a ton of that. And it doesn't matter because once you have these weaponized, captured activist courts, it doesn't matter what the law said.
Right.
The court will do whatever it wants. We're seeing that when it comes to energy projects like Northern Gateway. We saw it in Saskatchewan, where they're challenging a law that's already shielded with the notwithstanding clause. We're seeing it in Alberta, where they're
We're seeing it
challenging
accelerate right through the notwithstanding clause.
yeah, and we're seeing it in Alberta with the
yeah.
Parents' Bill of Rights. So I don't until we deal with the courts that are captured by activists, we're in a gridlock in this country. And, imagine, let's say in my wildest fever dreams, Mark Carney decides to do mass deportations. I wake up to a dream, and he's rounding up all the temporary foreign workers, and he says, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. And I don't even know what land I've woken up in. But you know who would step in immediately? The activist courts to stop it. And until we deal with that, we're in for a world of trouble. Go ahead, Clyde, because you've been nodding for a minute.
So this is an interesting point because this is what I actually wanted to see happen out of the last election. I was hopeful for Pierre Poilievre. Unfortunately, I don't think he ran a very good campaign in the end. At the end, he lost it, and we could all see why. We saw.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, that's the judge of whether or not you ran a good campaign is did you win?
Yeah,
Well, that's
it's
true.
a pretty big report card. Yeah,
there's a lot of people that are giving a lot of excuses for why that didn't happen, and blaming lots of people. But so he did not win, and Canadians chose the Liberals because of the whole Orange Man bad, and that's been a big thing. The hope was that the Conservatives would get in and they would have a mandate from the people, and then it would be obvious that the courts and the bureaucracies and everything is captured. That's when it would have been really, really obvious to the average Canadian. And that's when things could have changed. We could have had reforms at that point. Right now, it's all cloudy because, maybe Carney wants to do something, but then the activists, as you're describing here, won't want to go along with that. But is it something that Carney really wants? Or perhaps that was just the plan all along? I mean, if you read values, you can see exactly what he wanted to do. And some of the rhetoric that he's saying today sounds nice. And maybe a lot of people, centrist people, or even people on the right might get along with that and want those things. But are these the things he actually wants? Judging by his character and his life's work, I wouldn't put my money on it.
The man is a bait and switch artist is what he is. So he can come out and stand at a podium and say, well, I'm going to do what's best for Canadians, and I'm going to do what benefits Canadians, and we are going to get all of our ducks in a row, and we are just going to slay this Canadian dream, when in fact he's been in the background for at least the past 5 years, advising the Trudeau government, lining up his ducks in a row on Brookfield's end, right? So that when he became prime minister, it would immediately benefit the shareholders of Brookfield, that he has massive conflicts of interest still with. It is a real shame that Pierre Poilievre did not win. Well, actually, the Conservative Party didn't win the last election, that it was so horribly mishandled at the end of they blew a 20-point lead. There's a reason for that. It was completely mishandled at the end. But the opportunity that loss gave to the Liberal Party of Canada and Mark Carney level insiders is just enormous and can't be understated.
Clyde, I want to talk to you about this longest ballot committee nonsense, because I don't know if you noticed, but it really sticks in my craw. I hate it. And I hate it because this has been on the radar of the elections commissioner, the exceedingly useless and incompetent Stéphane Perreault, since at least October of 2024. So like well in advance of the next election. Conservatives were hammering him in committee about it, and he didn't do anything. He acknowledged the problem, didn't do anything. And then to some success, they pulled it off in Ottawa-Carleton. Maybe it affected the vote, maybe it didn't, but it is a mockery of the elections process that 90 plus of them run in Ottawa-Carleton, and then 215 or whatever is 214 of them run then in the next riding of Battle River-Crowfoot. It's such an insult. It's such an insult to the voters of Battle River-Crowfoot that their vote is turned into just an absolute mockery of the entire system. And yet nobody is doing anything about it. And as a fiscal conservative, I'm like, how much does this stupid meddling cost us? We've got to change the ballots. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. We've got to pay extra election workers to count them. We have, it's a by-election. It's 10:34 at night. Why don't we have the definite results? Got to hand count them because we got to deal with voter intent. Are we ever going to see them fix this, or is it just never going to get fixed as long as the Liberals in power?
Well, it is a mockery. It's supposed to be a mockery. That's the whole idea of it. It was established by the Rhinoceros Party years ago as a protest against the first past the post system. You can get rid of the first past the post. Justin Trudeau he got given a mandate to do that in 2015, and he didn't do that. So it could have been over way back then. It could have been over in 2021 when Justin Trudeau, then when he was asked about it, he said, well, I didn't feel it right to do that when I had a majority, because that would just be unfair. That's what the point of being given a mandate is, especially when that was the top of the ticket for his election. Then he came back and said, well, we want to bring people together to do this, but nobody can agree on it. Well, that's why you were there to do it in the first place, and you didn't follow through with it. So the idea is, if you want to get rid of this, get rid of the first past the post. Now, would people try to do this in the future afterwards? Possibly. Was this targeted at Pierre Poilievre? It certainly looks that way.
It's only at conservatives. Sure. It's only at conservatives. And I don't even think you need to get rid of first past the post. Just get rid of these jerks. They all have the same financial agent. It's very clearly a scam. Make them put up $200. That's not an imposition. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not $1,000. It's not $10,000. You would have fewer election meddlers if they had to put some skin in the game, but they have nothing.
But the craziest thing is one of the organizers of the longest ballot committee actually took this to court and challenged it and
Yeah.
won back in
Yep.
2017. So they actually weaponized an activist court to let this
Mhm.
slide through our system. And if it's only ever harming conservatives and only ever benefiting the left, well,
What's the
then I think we
incentive to
have to
fix it?
we have to look at this in terms of the interference that it's electoral interference is what it actually is.
Yeah, and you
So
know, when there's
there's
no, sorry, go ahead. I'll
Oh
be
no,
quiet.
okay. I just wanted to add this in. So there are ways of fixing things like this. So I think it was Japan that did this, where they put in a provision where you have to pledge to spend at least X amount on advertising during your campaign. Because
Sure.
if you're going to run, you're expected to campaign
Oh,
and
you know what?
win.
That
So
explains why Japanese elections are so darn fun. They have people like on parade floats out in the streets. If you get a minute after this, and I know it's late, go look at
Japanese
Japanese
election
elections on
campaigns?
YouTube. There's people dressed in costumes handing out ballots and stuff. I guess it's when you have to spend, when you're forced to spend money,
mm.
they get a little creative. Anyways, I'll be quiet. But yeah,
Oh,
I
so I
ended up
used
in
to
a
live in
dark
Japan.
place.
I used
You
to live in
did.
Japan. Yeah. My wife's Japanese, and
Ah,
we're really in support of the Japan First Party. And so
yeah.
we've been following a bunch of this going forward. But when it comes to the elections, to thwart this sort of thing, you'd have to put forward a pledge to say that you would pay this much money in advertising. It's not a direct fee, so it's not something that would be unconstitutional or something that could be fought in the courts, because you're not paying a fee directly to the government. You're just pledging that you're going to spend at least this much in advertisement, which I think it was around $2,000, which is a really, really low bar. But if
That's a modest amount for an advertising campaign, yeah.
That's correct. So, but it's enough to thwart people from
Sure,
putting, frivolous ballots or frivolous names on the ballot.
sure.
Do you know, I love that solution. And again, I think it makes Japanese elections fun just on the outside looking in. But I love that the fee doesn't go to Elections Canada or the government. It goes back into the economy. It goes to local advertisers, stays sort of local. If you've only
Mhm.
got, a couple $1,000 to spend on elections advertising, you're going to put it like you're really going to target it. I think that's a great solution. But these people have no skin in the game. They're not even from the country, the country, who even knows? But they're not, a lot of them are from British Columbia, as the one lady with the same lady as the same last name as the dead lady, which we talked about earlier. Like it was just like it's crazy. One lady had the exact same name, Elsie Kipp, I think it was, which
Yes.
is not exactly a common name. And she, the original Elsie Kipp, who seems like a lovely lady, passed away in February. And then so people were going through the longest ballot committee names, and they're like just checking them, just Googling the names. And one came back as an obituary, and they're like, they put a dead lady on it. And actually, no, they tracked down the lady. She's in BC. She's never set foot in Battle River-Crowfoot. And she's like, no, I'm with the longest ballot committee. I'm just a scammer. I'm not dead. And I would rather have told them, I'm dead. Yes, thank you. I'm talking to you from beyond the grave. I would have been so embarrassed. But no, you're just terrible. What a mess it all is. Clyde, we've kept you longer than we said we would keep you, and we're really grateful for you being generous with your time, and I know it's late. Clyde, tell people where they can find your work, follow along with the things that you're doing and the people that you're talking to before we let you go.
Well, every morning on Clyde Do Something here on YouTube, check it out, or you can follow me on X. Every morning we do videos talking about the news, and every Wednesday evening I do a live show with Marty up north, and Fridays I do another live show with a rotating group of different guests. So come check us out. It's a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, is that live with Marty?
That's live with Marty. Yeah.
Okay, I'll let people go to you first because you're competing with my time slot on Wednesday behind the paywall at Rebel News, but they can watch me whenever they feel like it. If you're
There you
live, I'll
go.
send them to you. No big deal.
Awesome.
I'm not competitive like that. Thanks, Clyde, for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate you very much. And I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Clyde.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Okay, let's